Ooh, that looks tasty.
Throughout history, several great walls have attempted to be built. There was a Moronic attempt attempted in the 21st century, a quite successful one in the 14th century. Yet, the most interesting one to me happened in the 2nd century. And of course, this one's interesting to me because it is a perfect example of how we just don't learn our lessons.
Welcome, folks, to The Hungry Gamer is back with another game review, and today we're talking about Hadrian's Wall, published by Renegade Game Studio and designed by Bobby Hill. Now, before I get started, please make sure you turn your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any errors in the rules overview, that's where you'll find those corrections. Now, what Hadrian's Wall is it is a flip and write game in which you are building Hadrian's Wall, which is, well, from Roman history. It's in England and the big wall that they built and the fort, and they were defending against the Picts and all of that. And over the course of 6 different years, you're going to be building out the wall and trying to defend the empire. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played, and so jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this is going to work. As I said, the game is going to be played over 6 years, or 6 turns. And in each one of those turns, you're going to have a handful of different resources that you are able to spend. When you spend those resources, that will allow you to bubble in or fill in different spots on the board. As you fill in more spots, it will give you resources, it might give you points, and it will allow you to fill in yet more spots. So, very quickly, here's how it works. To begin each turn, you're going to draw a single one of these cards here, fate cards, and each player will then get all of the resources down the bottom. So in this case, everyone's going to get this. And along with that, you're going to be able to check your production stat over here, and you're going to get bricks for the wall as well. In this case, you start with 1 filled, so 1 brick. And then I'll point out that everything else on the top here has nothing to do with this part of the game. Each of these other 3 things have to do with different things that you can do. Then each player is going to draw 2 cards. One of these cards is going to be used as in-game scoring. So in this case, for completed cohorts being your troops at the top that are defending your wall. You have a left cohort, a center cohort, and a right cohort. That's going to matter later. You can get points. Or for having filled temples, and temples are over here, things that you can fill in as well, you get points. For sake of argument, we'll pretend that we are going to use this as our in-game scoring condition. So we would take this and we would slide it under the board right here. So it would look like that. And then you would gain these other 2 resources to use in your turn, just like so. So in the very first turn of the game, I have all of these resources that I'm able to spend. Then the next thing you do is, as I said, you spend your resources. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a resource. For example, I might take this blue citizen right here and use that to fill in this box right here. Good for me, and I would spend that. And then maybe I'm going to take this next blue one and I'm going to fill in this next box, just like that. Good for me. Then I'm going to take this purple one here. In fact, I'll take 2 purples. I'm going to take these 2 purples. I'm going to fill in this box and then that box right there. But you'll see there was a hammer and a brick there. So then I would get to go fill in this hammer right here. And I would gain another brick that I can spend right now on this turn. So as you can see, hopefully you're already starting to see what's going to be happening. Things that are particularly important. You'll notice that the wall here sometimes has these lines going up. So you can't build this part of the wall until the arrow beneath it is connecting to it. So until you've gotten to here, I can't fill in that one there. Same thing with the chippy right here. I hope I said that right. Those also go all the way down to the fort. So until you built that much fort, you cannot fill that in. However, there's more. You'll notice that the wall guard here and these foresters up here, they're not connected at all. However, you will see these lines right here, and to be able to unlock those, you'll have had to have unlocked these granaries like this, which tells you what you need to spend. You need to spend a purple, a blue, and a brick, but you also have to have at least gotten this far. And as you see, the further over you go, the more complicated it is to get things. But of course, it is far more complex than that, because in addition to that, sometimes you're going to be able to take some of your resources and turn them into something else. So I could take a blue guy here, turn him into a sword, take the sword, fill that in right up here. If I fill this in, that's going to unlock the ability to fill in one of my bubbles with a cohort. If I fill in this one here, that's discipline. I get to come down here and fill in part of this endgame scoring track with my discipline. And that's just this side of the board. We also have this side over here, which has all these citizenry tracks. And by unlocking these over here, the further up you go, it gives you access to all these other things on this side of the board. It might be something down here like the baths, which will allow you to recover from letting Picts break through your fort. And I'm going to show you about how that works in just a moment as well. It might be down here where you're going to use it and send your troops scouting, which if you recall, we had these spots on the card here, which then you can use those, take those, and then you can start filling in Tetris style these bubbles over here, which again is going to get you more resources, going to get you in-game scoring. It might be an in-game scoring condition, and so on and so on. So you might be filling that in over there. Up here, you have these trade goods, and that's where the other thing on these cards show up. You're looking for numbers 1 through 6, and you're going to have those trade goods, put them out there so you're able to purchase them. And of course, each time you do that, each different number that you put is going to get you more and more renown, which again is more in-game scoring points. And you're starting to see how this goes. Pretty much everything you do can have a lasting effect moving forward. And I didn't even get to the gladiators. You can have gladiators building out, and each year you can send them out to fight. And they fight, and then you're going to take this card here. You're going to flip over the card. You can see, ooh, that's 3. So if I didn't have at least 4 of these filled in and I flip that over, my gladiator just got killed. I mean, that's not too bad because I then would get rewarded down here for having him be killed. But if he'd won, I'd get something better. And of course, now that he's dead, I can't fight with him anymore. And so again, as you're starting to see, it's just a whole lot of things connecting and interweaving and interlocking. Now, the only other thing that I really need to tell you, and I'm not even pretending that you could put this game down on the table right now and play because there's a lot going on. And as I said, everything has an effect on everything else. You have to be so far over on this before you're able to build some of this stuff down here. You can't build these things over here until you get far enough over here to do that. But of course, sometimes you need more yellow meeples to get over there. So that might mean instead of actually building over here, you're going to come and you're going to build over here just so you can get to this yellow meeple, to take that meeple to go over here. And that meeple then is going to turn into this purple meeple, which then you're going to take that purple meeple, you're going to put it up here, and so on and so on and so on. But at the end of each year, once everyone has finally exhausted all of their supplies, you will enter the end of the year where there is an invasion. And if you take a look down here, we have these 3 banners on whatever year that you are on. We have easy, medium, difficult. And this is just a number of cards that you're going to draw. So in this case, just 1. So what happens is you go to your fate deck here, you flip it over, and that's saying they attack the right side of the wall. Then each player, they go and they look. Do they have defenders on that side of the wall? In this case, I do not, so I would take a disdain. A disdain is negative points at the end of the game, and it's something that you can get rid of through the baths I mentioned earlier. However, let's just pretend that I had filled that in. So I defended, which means I then get to go, I look, I see right here, there is up to 1 point can be gained, so I would then gain 1 point of valor. Valor being right down here, which is in-game scoring, though there's also stuff that you can unlock as you go. And of course, had I failed, I would have had to circle 1 disdain down there. And the further along that you go through the years, the more things you're going to be drawing, and then the more valor or disdain point you can wind up getting as you go. Now, I'm going to say that's it, folks. It's not it. There's a whole bunch going on because by the end of the game, you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff filled in on these 4 tracks. That's going to equal a certain number of points for each one. Then you're going to have 6 of these in-game scoring cards out there on your specific board, which is going to be different from everybody else's. And you're going to take those and you're going to add those in right here. Then however much disdain you have is going to equal a certain amount of negative points. Then we'll add all that up. High score wins. So what do I like about this game? And first of all, I'm not a huge blank and right guy. It's just not something that usually excites me a ton. So as I said with the last roll and write that I did, do take this with a little bit of a grain of salt that I'm not an expert on this. I'm not nearly as knowledgeable about blank and writes as I am about dungeon crawls or even Euro games. So with that said, what I do like about this game is heavier than I thought a roll and write could be. I mean, there are engines within engines, and this little thing over here is going to affect this other thing over here, but of course I can't even get this thing over here to affect this thing over here unless I've done some of this thing here first, but I can't do this thing until I've done this thing. I mean, everything just really ties in together in a way that I did not know was possible. And so I think that's just awesome. It's just awesome because along with that, it almost feels like you have this perpetual motion machine sometimes as you're going, because you start spending your resources, which gets you things, and as you're moving up these different tracks, suddenly that's unlocking other stuff. And because I unlocked a purple meeple here, that's going to let me move up my wall here, and because I moved up the wall here, that's actually going to allow me to build this thing above it over here, when of course I already have a piece of stone over here, so now I can do that. But of course, by using that piece of stone, that unlocks the discipline and another one there, so I can just fill that one in, which of course unlocked another soldier, which lets me. And sometimes you just feel like you're going on and on and on and on and on, and it's awesome. It is awesome. I absolutely adore that part of the game. Along with that, I like the two different boards that you have. The board that, well, for me is always on the right, is the people, the citizens, and by using that citizen board, you're unlocking a whole bunch of stuff that's going to make your specific play unique every single game. Do you want to go deep down the hole of the performers and have theaters and gladiatorial fights? You can do that. And of course, that means you're going to want to be heading down a certain path with your scoring that you pick for that particular round. Do you want to do the baths so you can get a bunch of bribes because you're not planning on doing a lot with your soldiers, which means you're going to get a whole bunch of the Picts are going to come through and be busting up your town, which is worth negative point to the end. But of course, you have the baths, so you're going to be able to mitigate that. Do you want to go and build a marketplace so you can get all these goods? And of course, by getting all these goods, you're getting that interaction with other players around the board. And there's just so many choices. I've been going on for, I don't know, a couple of minutes now about it, and I could keep going and going and going. The numbers of ways that the things can interconnect and the ways that your specific player board can be unique to what you want to do, and then how you can actually use that to determine your in-game scoring, because the way you get those two cards every turn, and one's going to give you a few more resources, but the other one's going to be in-game scoring, is fantastic. It's just fantastic. I also like that, truth be told, it's not as hard to learn as I feel like it should be, because you open the rule book and it's got, I don't know, 12 pages just talking about the different locations on the board, and some of them are like 3 paragraphs. You're like, oh my gosh, this is impossible, but it's not. Everything works really well together, and I just really appreciate that. And because of those things that I have just named, this game is stupidly addictive. Stupidly addictive. For example, the other night when I played once and I was like, well, that was fun. So I played again. And then we had some people over and we did some other stuff and we had dinner and all that and everyone was going to bed. And then I thought, well, I got 40 minutes. I'm going to go play again. And I went into the back room and I played again. And then I had a nice break during work today. And so what did I do? I busted it out and I played it again. It is addictive because all of those things just work so well together. Now, that said, that doesn't mean I think this game is perfect. So what are my quibbles with the game? And the first one is, there's not a lot of player interaction. That might not bother you. My general feeling is most roll and writes don't have a lot of interaction, but this one even has maybe less, because you can easily go through the entire game and not even look at anybody else around the table very easily. Because if you decide you're not going the market route, where you're going to be using the players to either sides their goods they have, or you're not going to go the scouting route where you have the little Tetris pieces that they have on their cards, you're not going to use those, then you never have to interact with anybody. You can just have head down the whole time. And that might not be for you. Now for me, I kind of like games that are multiplayer solitaire sometimes, because it means that I can play the game and we can have conversations that are kind of outside of the game, because what I'm doing isn't going to affect you. And so for me, that's kind of a different kind of social dynamic. But there are a lot of people that don't like that. They want direct interaction, and there's not a ton of that in this game. And then my only other quibble is, you can definitely be real bad at this game. Definitely. This is a game where you have so many options that it's super easy to just spread yourself really thin and do terribly, which is usually how I do the game, just terribly. And at the same time, because everything is connected and it's such a delicate engine that you get to create, it's really easy to break your own engine because you wind up using something over here that, oh my gosh, I needed to save that for over here. And because I did that here, that gives me this and this. Well, let me do this thing over here and this thing over here. And then that'll give me another one of this thing that I used first, which I need to use over here, but I used that first. So it can be a little disheartening sometimes. If you just make one little mistake, you can just totally blow a turn, and you blow one turn, you've put yourself behind the 8 ball because there's only 6 turns in the game. But those are both pretty minor quibbles. For me, this is, and again, haven't played a lot of roll and writes, but this one's my favorite. I think the level of depth that it has makes me want to keep coming back for more. And what's the most telling to me about this one is I very rarely like a solo mode that is beat your own score, or here's a score chart. Wherever you fall on that, that's going to make you a master builder or whatever. I have no problem with it. I want to beat my own score. I don't care about anybody else around the table. And to me, that's very, very telling. There's very few games out there that I feel like that with, and this is one of those. So there you have it, folks. That is Hadrian's Wall. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp. I'll get that into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.